Hello and welcome to the second episode of Tarot Rebel Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Gogo.
And Chas.
Disclaimer, we are not responsible for awakening the masses. I took your line there. I just went for it. I know, I was waiting for you. I think we have a slight delay. So I was just waiting for you. I was like, it's too long. I'm just gonna go for it. Hello, everybody.
We're storming out here, so that might have been the lag or the delay. So
Probably.
yes, we're responsible for awakening the masses.
Hell yeah. There we go.
Okay, we're back at it. Episode 2.
Yes.
Subject
We had
for
a nice week break. Over a week break. You got some sunshine, and I just stayed in my house, hiding from the sun like a true vampire that I am.
That's what I'm doing now. I think because I had a little too much stimuli going on. Now I'm just kind of like on hermit mode. But yeah, I had a fabulous time. I went to the beach. I got a nice sexy tan line right over my nose where my mask is, or was.
Sexy.
Yeah, the new tan line. The new one, The new tan line is a mask line. So
I mean, before it was the sunglasses, now it's the mask.
Yeah, now it's the mask. Exactly, yeah. So, but it was a great trip. I feel rejuvenated, and now I'm ready to get back to the grind of things, the routine, I guess. So,
what's that TikTok? Right. Back to work, bitch.
Back to work. On the grind. So,
okay, so today's topic we have how to get the most out of a reading.
Ooh, yes.
Interesting one. Well, this is something you came up with. So, okay, let's start. Let's just shoot ideas. What do you think is kind of the first or the most important thing that you have come across in working with tarot, working with clients? Like, how can a person get the most out of a reading? Is there a specific question? Is there a specific approach? Like, what's one thing that you would start with?
On the head for me, because the most important thing, essentially, when you begin is formulating the right question. I notice, and I'm sure this happens to you a lot as well, where you get the client asking yes or no questions. Or
quite
very exactly that, or very broad questions.
You know what? Honestly, I don't mind the broad questions, because sometimes getting into a reading, I actually do like to sometimes start off a reading with like a simple 3-card spread or something, or just doing a general reading with a couple of cards, just to get a good idea of where the person is, and then jump more in depth. If we do something like that, where it's not just the general, but we maybe start off with the general and then go more specifically into certain things that are, I want to say, key points in the reading or to a person. I kind of like that, but I get what you mean by general. If it's just completely general, you don't necessarily get the full effect, or you don't necessarily get what you need out of a reading, I feel like.
Yeah, and I guess what I mean by broad is a lot of times it's broad with timing.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell me, what's going to happen like a year from now or 6 months from now? Or questions like, am I going to get married? Am I going to have children? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
those are kind of questions where, okay, that's dependent on your situation, really.
Yeah.
And usually when I have clients ask those sort of questions, these are people who are single. They're not even with anybody.
Yeah.
But they want to know if they're going to have, they're going to have children and get married, but they're not with anybody.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just a tarot reader, not a matchmaker, homie. So
exactly. We're not Cupids over here.
And I just kind of, and the one thing about being a reader is it's a judgment-free zone. Like, you're going to get all kinds of interesting scenarios and situations, and and we usually just keep an open mind, because you have to, because that's what really keeps the channels open, essentially, the third eye, so to speak. So, but yeah, I just find those questions from single people are like, really? Like, I mean, I could understand if you have been dating someone X amount of, years, like maybe it's 6 months to a year, and you want to know if it's going to lean toward marriage and children. That's a valid question, because you're with somebody and you want to know if you guys are going to take it to that next level. However, if you're somebody who hasn't even gone out there and dated, and you want to know, oh, am I going to get married? Am I going to have kids? Like, what? Like,
yeah.
that, I think that's what I mean by broad questions.
Yeah.
Because again, essentially for me, how tarot works, it tells you the story of the situation as it is at this moment. And it gives you more of a deeper insight to your present situation. And it tells you possible outcomes or things from the past that led up to where you are now.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I just feel like how to get the most out of a reading is for people to understand what tarot is and what it does.
Well, I think that
So
that in
that's why I
itself is
figured.
yeah.
So I feel like that's what's very important. And for me, it's like once people really know what that entails, they can get the most out of it. So that's why I kind of felt like this was a very important subject matter.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So
I think for me, the first thing that I always like to kind of bring up is the should questions. So kind of sticking with the topic of questions. I feel like if you're going in for reading and asking if you should be something, it won't necessarily bring that much understanding to a situation. To kind of go back to what you said, I feel like the most important trait of a reading is getting a better understanding of what's happening and what's going on in a situation, to know what you're dealing with, or to just get a sense, if you don't have any idea of what's going on, just getting a sense of kind of what is going on basically. And I know that in my readings, it doesn't happen that often, but it does still tend to happen quite a bit in certain scenarios where I feel like for love specifically, or even for work, sometimes it's like, should I go for this job or this job? Or should I choose this person or go back to the person that I was with before? Something like that. Basically, those should questions in general. Uh, at the end of the day, we cannot be the ones that decide. As a tarot reader, I feel like we are here to spread the information that we are given and give the information that we pick up on in the cards, and basically give that to you as a client. But doing a should question, I don't feel like there is that much that I can give you at the end of the day, personally, because I can only give you a yes or a no. But that gives you no information about the situation. It gives you no information or any understanding of what's going on. What are the kind of the influences, whatever you want to kind of include in that situation. It just is basically a simple yes no question. And at the end of the day, um, it cannot be, I want to say, our responsibility to make that decision, because it is not our life. And for me to say, yes, you should go for this one, it's not my judgment. I'm not living in that moment with you. I'm not you, if that makes sense. So I feel like it's far better to go with a different kind of question, like, what is so let's switch this. Like, should I go for this job or that job? I feel like a good way to switch up that question would be, which work path or career path is in my highest good? which career path is going to bring me the most benefits or is going to meet the goal that I have set for myself. I feel like that's a much better way to rephrase the question and get the most out of it. Because at the end of the day, you will get some information about what to expect if we are doing future telling, and you will get some information about how the situation is revolving right now, what the potential is. Do you have more potential in one scenario or the other, and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, I feel like that's an important part to come into a reading for certain people that know that they have a goal. Let us know what that goal is, what it is that you're wanting to achieve, what it is that your directive is, and the path that you want to follow. Because through that, we can help you orient yourself in that direction with kind of ease, I want to say.
Right.
What do you think?
I'm really glad that you pointed out the fact that occasionally or quite often clients
Quite
will,
often.
yeah, not even occasionally, quite often, because now that I think about it, it has happened a little too often where I would get a client coming in and ask me, should I do this or should I do that, or should I choose this person or choose that person? And essentially, what we do as readers, we provide insight. We're not here to solve your problems. We're not here to tell you what to do. And I think
Exactly.
the most important thing also in this going in is to kind of remove those stereotypes of this aspect of the cards and the reading itself just being basic fortune telling, because that's only a mere facet of what a reading is. Yeah,
Exactly.
you know, we're going to give you a possible outcome. We're going to tell you what we envision going forward, you know, any specific time frame you ask, like a month, 6 months, a year, whatever. But essentially, there's so much more involved. Really, like you said, I'm really glad that you pointed out for the client to have a goal and to really know where they want this reading to lead, because I feel very often people go in my experience, they go in with a slight skepticism.
Mm-hmm.
And they, oh, I want to see what this person's going to tell me, kind of thing. Because that's happened to me. And I would feel that kind of aura, right?
Yeah, it's
Where,
happened to me too. I know
right?
the type. I know the type.
You know what I'm talking about, okay? Because
Yeah.
they'll go in, they'll have that slight skepticism. Let's see how good this reader really is. Let's see what this person's going to tell me, kind of thing. And they'll kind of keep things purposely vague to kind of test your chops, you know?
Yeah.
And then essentially what they fail to realize that the reading goes off their energy too, not just the readers. So if you're going in there with that attitude and wanting to be purposely vague, guess what? The cards will show up purposely vague. So, so you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot with that kind of attitude. So really going in, I would recommend for everybody that's listening to kind of keep that open mind and have a specific, again, like you said, G, a specific goal, a specific topic in mind, or situation or person in mind. If it's a romantic reading and you want to look into somebody, keep that in there, so that way when I'm shuffling or I ask you to cut the deck, because sometimes if I sense this is a person who's never had a reading before, I will let them cut the deck so that they could have their energy attached to it as well, and that they can feel somewhat in control of the information that's coming in. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
But yeah, so that's very important, Gene. I'm very glad you pointed that out, because very often it's that slight stereotype of fortune telling and the skepticism that most people have that kind of deter from the experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think over here we have to also make a very important differentiation when it comes to a goal or a specific trajectory that you want to follow with the reading, as we just spoke. I feel like it's important to note when we speak of a goal or a focus that you have, it speaks more so to the focus or goal you have in life or in a specific situation. Uh, but I would advise people when they do come into a reading to try to be as open-minded as possible, because you do have people coming in, and I'm sure you do have to as well, that come into a reading expecting a certain kind of answer or a specific answer, and they do get very hung up when that's not the case. And I want to make that difference because I feel like it's important to know a goal for reading and a goal in life is two very different things. I think for anybody who is coming in for a reading, it's good if you have that directive and if you have a desire, passion, whatever, if it's romantic, if you want a specific person or something, that's absolutely okay. But make sure that you come into reading open-minded and to listen to the information that's being given. Because at the end of the day, I think that any professional tarot reader or anybody who is reading and who is honest will let you know what's going on exactly. And it's not going to be, even if something isn't working out, the cards, the reader, whoever you come to, is going to give you options. I think that's a very important thing to note as well. If something is not working, it's not the end of the road. What's the saying? One door closes, another door opens. I think that's a case in a lot of readings, and especially with tarot and even certain oracle decks that have that kind of energy attributed to them show those opportunities. It shows you where a specific path is going, but it also shows you opportunities to improve that path, to choose a different line of path that will lead you towards the same goal, or show you another path that will bring you an even better ending. So I think that's also an important part to mention, because that happens quite a bit as well, where people come into a reading and it's like, that's not what I expected, that's not what I want. Well, I think that for those type of people, it's maybe better to go for somebody who is just going to sugarcoat things. I know that neither me nor Chas does that, because at the end of the day, like, what's the purpose? If you lie to somebody once and you just feed them a story that they want to hear, and that doesn't happen, or that doesn't come to be true, or isn't true in the moment, are you ever going to come back to me or to Chas for reading? No. You're just like, fuck that. I'm going to somebody who's going to tell me the truth. And even if the truth is painful sometimes and a little bit darkish, it's important to know it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was saying, like, I've had clients in the past, especially when I was working on the psychic site. Oh boy, I've told you stories, G, about what that was like.
Oh yeah.
I had people get salty, like super salty at the stuff I told them. And like you said, oh, that's not what I asked you. That's not. And again, when I was on the psychic site, you have a profile. The reader has a profile.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Read my profile. Okay?
Educate yourself.
I mean, if I'm not your cup of tea, then why did you request me? Because I specifically explain, I don't sugarcoat. I explain what the type of readings that I do, the type of reader that I am, and what I specialize in. And that's another thing. Now that we're talking about this, guys, research your readers. Find out what they specialize in. Find out the type of approach that they have, meaning if they're more compassionate, if they're more straightforward, or if they're more generalized fortune-telling type. Okay? Research, guys, because if you want the best out of a reader, make sure that this is a reader that will give you the specific insights you're looking for. Now, if you're looking for a soulmate reader, right, or reading, if it's a career reading, make sure that this is a reader that does career type readings, right? If you're looking for more of a spiritualized kind of life path, kind of a coaching experience, look for a reader who specializes in that, who does that, because often there's this misconception that readers are like a one size fits all, and that's not the case.
Exactly.
Many of us specialize in different areas.
Mm.
So again, do your research, figure out what type of reader you're dealing with. And if more than likely, the reader will have a website that you can look into and see the type of readings that they do. They'll explain that, because I know on my website, I explain in detail the type of readings that I do. So this is why I would get irritated when I would get these clients getting salty at me, because I'm like, did you read my profile? Okay, I have a very honest, straightforward approach to my messages and what I related to the client. I don't sugarcoat, and I put that in caps, G. No sugarcoating. So if you're not ready to hear the real, don't call me. Like you said, G, if they want a reader that's going to give them the fortune telling aspect and is going to tell them what they want to hear. And, you know, when I've had clients get literally salty and nasty, I would tell them this. I said, perhaps I'm not the reader for you. If you want another reader to tell you what you want to hear, then there's plenty of those on the site. Go for it.
Exactly.
I had a woman one time tell me, oh, well, I want a refund. I said, well, do what you have to do, because honestly speaking, I explain my approach and the type of readings that I do. So, and that's the thing about it. People in that situation, you have to take responsibility. You knew the type of reader I was. You didn't research. You didn't look into the type of reader that I am, and like you said, G, she had a certain expectation that wasn't met.
Mm-hmm.
That's not my fault, boo. That's not my fault. Okay.
It's true. Yeah. At the end of the day.
Yeah, it was interesting, because I remember a couple of years ago, I did a phone reading from the site, and again, this would happen very often. And again, no judgment here for anyone that's listening, because like I said, you come across a lot of interesting scenarios. But very often, I would come across women that were, for lack of a better word, side pieces or mistresses. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah.
And I would get that.
Oh my God. Mm-hmm.
It was to the point where I had a joke where I was calling the site that I worked for sidepiece.com, because most of the women that I would talk to are with married or attached men, right? Mm-hmm. So needless to say, I had this client, and she started out vague. Mm-hmm. As we discussed earlier, you know, purposely vague, to kind of see how good I am, blah, 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 blah. And she asked me, she said, oh, I haven't heard from my boyfriend in X amount of time, and I want to know why. Okay, valid question, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's a good one.
Question. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was like, okay, valid question. So I start pulling, and the cards, as always, call people out, right? You and I both know, we joke about this.
Oh, yes.
And we'll get into that aspect in a minute, but I'm just going to tell the story before we go there. So I was like, well, the reason why he hasn't reached out is because he's home with his wife and kids, because he's married. I'm telling you, it was dead silence, G. And again, and I wasn't saying that to judge. I mean, that's what showed up. I mean, we got Justice, Queen of Cups, 2 pages, and the 10 of Cups. It's a family unit.
That's dead on family unit.
Okay, you can't get much clearer than that. And exactly. I also picked up that he was on vacation, on family vacation. Mm. And immediately she got hostile. She's like, oh, you're lying, because he told me he was going on a work trip and he's by himself. And I'm like, so, well, Apparently, if you know all the answers, why you're calling me?
True.
If you're so sure that he's telling you the truth, why are you seeking me out? And I said, listen, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, sweetie. I'm just trying to get you to understand. If you're calling me, there's some doubt there and some things you want clarified. And again, I'm not here to ruffle feathers. I'm not here to hurt your feelings. What I get is what I get. And you do what you want to do with the information I give. I told her just like that. I was very blunt, because, I'm going to be honest, she got a little ratchet with me.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I could get ratchet too, but I'm going to be a little more professional, and I'm just going to explain to her how this works. Because clearly she didn't know how this works. So when I broke it down that way, I said, listen, Linda.
Listen, this is some bullshit.
I don't know what her name was. I don't remember what her name was. It wasn't Linda, but you guys understand. You guys get the joke with that. So yeah. I was just like, listen.
Might have been a Karen. You never know.
So I was like, basically, understand this is what I receive. The information I receive is what I receive. Okay. And I said, like, I just want you to understand that there's no judgment here. I'm just telling you what I see. And I said, well, this is the scenario according to the cards. He told you he was going on a business trip, but he's really on a family vacation. Okay, so now you know the circumstances, and now you know as to why he hasn't reached out. Will he reach out? Yeah, she's like, oh, but he said he's leaving his wife, and so on and so forth, and is that gonna happen? And so I started to pull, and I did see that he was basically giving her false promises. You know what I mean? And like I said, this was a rough reading, and I had to be honest with what I saw. I said, listen, truthfully, based on the cards, he's pretty much telling you what you want to hear to kind of keep you there, to string you along, basically. And she's like, oh, so what am I supposed to do? Right? And again, she got a little, swell up in the chest. What am I supposed to do? I said, that I can't tell you. That's up to you. Because remember what you said, G, about when they act, they want you to fix the issues here.
Yeah.
They want you to be the problem solver and the reader. No, boo, that's not how this works either. So I had to set that boundary. You know what I mean? So I said, that I can't tell you. But what I do see here is that I gave you the information as to what is going on, what the circumstances is, what it is going forward. You have to figure out what you're going to do now.
Yeah.
Clearly this man he portrays that he's going to leave and that things are bad, but he's on vacation having a grand old time, probably in freaking Disney World, for all we know. And you're over here wondering why he hasn't called or texted you, and you're sitting here with your thumb up your butt. So at this point, you got to figure out what you're going to do. I can't tell you that. So then why did I call you? And she got all salty again, and she hung up on me. She literally hung up. I was like, well, okay, there's that.
Yeah, true. But that's the thing. That happens more often than people would imagine. Like, I've had that happen.
Yeah.
Not that many times, but it happens from time to time where you get people who just simply don't want to listen. And I think that's an important part as well. I was just kind of thinking, as you were saying, for a reading, at the end of the day, it is meant to give you more understanding of a situation, to give you a broader idea of what's happening, to go more into detail on things that you want to know about and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's a part of the solution. Let's say it's 50% of what you need to resolve a problem or to move forward. It's sort of that information. The rest, the action, the decision, that's up to you as the client, as the person who is getting the reading, right? And I feel like for any valuable reading, there have to be some kind of focus points or key points for a person who's getting a reading. And I think that's how you will recognize a good reader as well. if something is going on, they're not going to say you need to do this, this, and this. I feel like a good way to go about it is to say, here are some things that may be good to focus on, because that will bring you closer to the desired goal, or it will be in your highest good. And that, I feel like, is much better because, once again, we go back to that idea. It gives you options. It doesn't give you, you need to do this. Because then again, human psychology, if you're told to do something, how likely are you to actually do it?
Exactly. And again, I'm glad you pointed that out, because so very often a lot of clients want to be coddled. Like you
Yep.
said, they want to be told what they want to hear.
Yep.
And I'm not coddling you, boo. I'm not an enabler. I'm a reader. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Straight up, I'm going to tell you what I see.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm going to be honest with you. It took me a very good while, quite a long time, to kind of develop this thick skin, because early on when I would start reading, I would be very apprehensive about the information I'm getting and how to relay it to a person, because I really was unsure how they would react to this. And I guess I knew the person energetically would be conflictual, like come at me way. And I really didn't want that energy exchange. But at this point, I mean, this was fast forward now, like 2 decades later, like I'm at a I guess, for lack of a better word, I guess I'm pretty savage now. Like I say what I get. And I think now, because it took me a while to develop the detachment. And I think for a lot of readers, and especially early on, and this is interesting because, again, I had my class yesterday, and one of my students, she just bought her first deck, and she's, just been playing around with it, getting, feeling it out, I guess.
Yeah.
She gets very emotionally attached to what she's reading, and very emotionally attached to the querent, to the reader. And I remember I was the same way when I started. I did not know how to detach from the situation and their energy. And that's kind of the struggle, especially if you're empathic or you're sensitive. It's hard to do that. But what I did, what the method that worked for me was, okay, like you said, and this is a great affirmation. The information that I'm giving is to assist and to, it's for their highest good. I think if you go in with that intention and with that understanding and awareness, that detaches you from any kind of like negative reaction or anything like that, because in your heart of hearts, your intention. And that's why when I had this hostile client that I was just talking about, I made that clear to her. I said, listen, there's no judgment here. I'm not judging your situation. I'm reading. Okay. And when I read, this is a judgment-free zone. I want you to understand that. Because essentially in the beginning, she felt I was judging her. Firstly, how the heck am I judging you when I don't know you from Adam? Okay. And how the heck did I know homie was married until I pulled the cards? So I'm not judging you. But again, this had to do, again, you mentioned the psychological aspect. This was really her own judgment that she was sort of projecting, making it my fault, like I'm judging her. But essentially, she's judging herself.
Yeah.
But I became the scapegoat. You know what I mean? So
you were there. You were readily accessible.
Right. So that was what that was about. And I knew that too. So I was able to kind of neutralize that. I said, first of all, it's fine. I'm not judging at all. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm just telling you what the cards are telling me. So, interesting enough, how that turned out, I told you she hung up on me.
Yes.
She called me back 2 minutes later.
Damn. Linda, be fast.
She called me back and she apologized. And she said, and I remember what she said to me. She was like, you know, I've been getting readings on this site for years, and I never had a reader be this honest with me. And I didn't know how to take it. I didn't know how to take it. I mean, you were super accurate, and I guess I wasn't ready to hear it, but I needed to hear it. And, you know, I just want to thank you. And she's like, and I'm just going to be a regular now. I'm just going to go to you from here on in. I said, well, that's good. I'm glad. And I said, I'm glad you felt, I'm glad you understood what my intention was with the reading, because again, I noticed you felt a little judged in the beginning. And like I said, honestly, I don't know you. So how am I going to judge a person I don't know or their situation?
Sure.
You know, I said, and I've been doing this a long time. This is not the first time I've read people in this situation. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, and she kind of laughed about it. And yeah, so things were smoothed over. She apologized. And I think because she never had that in-depth of a reading, she usually had people just give her broad answers. Yeah, he's going to call you and you guys are going to be good. And, you know, like the fortune telling aspect she's gotten most of the time. Yeah. She never has somebody really go in and kind of assert responsibility, because that's what we do, G, right? When we talk to our clients, we give them information, but at the same time, we give you the reins. We give you the responsibility. Okay, now that we gave you the information, do what thou wilt.
Exactly. And I think that's also an important part. We spoke about how to get the most out of reading, but I want to say an important part as well, or an important aspect, is how often you actually get a reading.
Oh
For me personally, I had to set a time frame with all my clients that there is a specific amount of time that has to go by between your reading on the same topic. I think that's a very important part, because again, a lot of people get hung up on that idea, like anytime something happens, like any small change, like this person said this, or I got this letter, or I got this piece of information, this person told me that, they feel inclined to call, because it's literally like an attachment. And that's absolutely okay. Some people need that aspect of being guided through that situation moment to moment, and that's absolutely okay. And there are readers out there who will offer that. I personally cannot do that with the amount of people that I read. It's just, it doesn't work for me. I'm not going to be able to read for anybody else, but for a small group of people that are going to come on a daily or a weekly basis. So I feel like it's important how often you actually get a reading. I know that for some people, I do say it's a specific amount of time. If it's a situation that is progressing day in and day out, if it's an extended period of time that nothing happens, call me when something changes. When something happens, call me then. Let's see what we get then, what the new energy is, what the new input is, what the new possibilities are, what is kind of not supposed to, but what can happen in this position or in this moment, and how best to use this moment to your own advantage to meet the goal that you have set for yourself. Yeah. What did you want to say? I see you smiling as you go like, yes.
I'm literally giggling to myself, because that was exactly what I wanted to talk about next.
I mean, telepathy. We are right here, as always.
we're always on the same wavelength, like every time. Word. So that's why I'm cracking up over here, because I'm like, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I wanted to talk about. And this is what I call the repeat offender. Okay.
Interesting.
And this is a client, like you said, that, I'm gonna give different scenarios, but it's kind of the same consensus, right? The first one, like you said, you do a reading, and they like call you the next day after you gave them a reading, and you're like,
yep.
What has happened in 24 hours? Did something happen?
Yeah.
Because that would be essentially what I would ask. I'm like, did something happen? No, but I want to know what you see today. And I'm like,
Yeah. Oh my
right?
God. Yes,
Right?
I got so many in the year and a half that I work on the psychic side. I got so many of those, and you can't help it. You can't say like, "Oh no, I won't gonna read for you." I mean, you can, but then at the end of the day, I- it's a moral dilemma. I feel like everybody makes their own decision, but yeah, I've got many of those as well. I know what you're talking about. I'm familiar with the type.
So I'm over here like, so nothing really transpired within this 24-hour interval, and you want to know what I see, right? So, okay, I'll oblige. Okay,
Hmm.
well, and it'll pretty much be the same story.
Hmm.
And I'm like, well, based on the cards and, intuitively what I get, not much of the situation has changed. And that's when I'll kind of inform them. I said, listen, I would strongly advise to give this at least two weeks of a window to play itself out. And
Hmm.
then you can hit me back for a follow-up. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
expecting a follow-up or, a daily forecast of what things.
Yeah. And
And that's, again, and that's the stereotype of the fortune telling.
yeah.
Give me a daily forecast of what things are going to look like today. I'm like, if I read for you in detail the day before, and nothing has happened, and you expect a daily forecast of what's, if anything has, not really, you already know nothing has changed. What can I tell you? What can the cards tell you? You see what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
Yeah. And you know what? I don't know if you experienced this, to interrupt you quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I had that happen where I would read for a person, like a couple of days in a row or every other day, something like that. And after a little bit, maybe like third or fourth reading, the cards would stop making any sort of sense. You get what I mean? Like the cards would just be completely out of the story that I got up until then. It would just be something different. I got the lovers, then I get, I don't know, the star or I don't, the world, whatever. And it just started to make absolutely no sense. And I feel like the cards are saying in their own kind of a language, like, it's enough, Linda. Stop. Stop, Linda.
like I don't feel like it. I'm over it. Like the cards are
Yeah.
just, the cards at that point, they'll just be like, I got nothing.
Hmm.
Like,
I feel like the cards turn from like a helpful, I don't know, Virgo, Libra into just a Scorpio, and it's like, enough, bitch. Enough is enough. Stop.
because that's, again, like I said earlier in the broadcast, the cards, when you pull, it's based on the current's energy.
Yeah.
So if the person's energy is all over the place, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of different ideas and things swirling, guess what? It's going to show up in the cards. It's like if you see the aspect of it not making sense, because I guess it could essentially be that the person in question or the querent is just kind of all over the place, and that's pretty much what's being, excuse me, shown.
Exactly.
And so that in itself, again, we're not judging here. Like, I don't want anybody that's listening to get it twisted. We're not like being mean. What we're doing is, again, we're explaining how to get the most out of a reading.
Yeah.
And for the repeat offenders and that have done that and have expected a different result 24 hours later, realistically, that's not how readings work. Okay, guys?
That's not how life works.
That's not how life works, exactly.
Damn.
Something
Like, imagine.
miraculously, you know. And here's the thing, and I've had these moments too where I kind of get into coach mode. You and I have talked about this, G.
Yes.
Sometimes they just want some sort of guidance, and they think it's a reading, but they really need some guidance, like some coaching, right? So
Yeah.
I remember certain repeat offender clients that I had. I had one lady who was in a really like kind of roller coaster situation, right?
Hmm.
And she used to call me every day at one point. And I was like, okay, I have to set a boundary here. And I really have to understand, what is it that why does she keep calling? And the thing was, for her, it was just, she felt a level of anxiety, and there was just an insecurity there because of things that happened in the past. And I said, here's the thing. Readings are not a band-aid. Okay? And I had to get all the way 100 with her. I've been doing this a long time. And again, when I say this, I'm saying this from a place of concern. Okay? You seem like a very sweet person, and I enjoy reading you. You're a very nice, again, very good person, good energy. But I do feel this is becoming somewhat a way of you to receive guidance. And if that's what you need, that's fine, because I can do that. I told her. And I said, what I feel like with this is, essentially, you need to understand that the cards are not a band-aid. And I feel when she was reaching out to me, she wanted good news. She wanted some sort of positive tidings, like I said, good news. And she felt like she couldn't be optimistic unless she had positive news from the reading. And that's where you kind of got to set a boundary. And again, with her, I had to set that boundary. And I told her, I said, listen, okay, you cannot let readings rule your life. Okay? You got to understand that the cards change as you change energetically, and the other person in question changes energetically. Because what I ended up getting with her was, oh, but you told me last reading this, and now you're telling, I'm like, well, you're hitting me up the next day. Are you in the same energetic space you were 24 hours ago? Probably not. Is he? Probably not. Which is why I say to give yourself that window to see how things play out. Because again, they want to make you the scapegoat. Like, they want you to be wrong. Oh, you told me 24 hours ago this was going to happen. Now you're telling me something different. So I'm BSing you now, and it's my fault. No, that's not how this works. Yeah. So and I said, really what you want is a Band-Aid. And now you're relying on me to give you good news, so to keep you in a optimistic space. You need to give that to yourself. If you're not feeling very optimistic about the situation, it has nothing to do with what I've been reading, but really your own ideologies and belief systems about the situation. And I told her just like that, G. Yeah. This has nothing to do with what I'm reading you. This has to do with what you believe in yourself about the situation. And, she came at me again, hostile. Well, I didn't ask you that. I said, well, I didn't. Yeah, so I was like, you didn't ask me that, but I'm telling you that because that's how readings work. I don't know what type of readers you've dealt with in the past, but as long as I've been doing this, this is how it goes down. Yeah. And if you're not comfortable with that, or if I'm not giving you the type of services you're looking for, then there's plenty other readers. And then all of a sudden, she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. I'm like, okay, well, I just want you to understand, okay, that there's something much deeper going on here. And it's something that I, as a reader, cannot help. I'm going to be honest with you. If you want your money back, email the management. I'll be glad to give you your money back. But I need you to understand there's so much more going on here. Okay? So that tends to happen. And I've had that experience where clients became a little obsessive. Yeah. And I had to kind of nip it in the bud. Like I said, I had to set boundaries. Yeah. Because I get that. You don't, at this point, you don't become, you go from being a reader to being their guru. You know what I'm saying? And that's not my job. I'm not trying to be somebody's guru. Okay? I'm here to give you a reading and, again, do what thou wilt with the information that I give. Hit me up for follow-ups, 2 weeks later or whenever you decide. But if you're hitting me up every day for some daily insights and wisdom as to the same situation over and over that you have not done anything about, and that's another aspect of it too that I explained to her. I said, well, the cards, when we did the last reading, it explained things that you can do to make the situation better. Because she was kind of on mind reader mode where she expected the guy to know what her needs were without telling him what the needs were. I said, you have to communicate here. Oh, but he know. I said, does he really? Because based on what I'm seeing here, he doesn't. You have to tell him. So I asked her, I said, okay, so did you follow the advice from the last reading? Did you talk to him? Did you kind of explain what your needs are and where you stand? That's not what I asked you. There it goes again. There it goes again.
Yeah.
You see, and in those situations, as a reader, you have to set boundaries. Because now they just want you to be the fixer. They want you to be the remedy now. And then if you don't tell them what you want to hear, what they want to hear, it's your fault. They're going to make it your fault. And I've encountered this many times over the years with certain clients. And like I said, I nip that shit in the bud. They go there. That's when I'm like, look, I'll give you your money back with no problem. Don't think I need your money that bad. Okay? Because whatever you got going on there has nothing to do with me. And I'm not going to be your scapegoat. And I'm not going to be your fixer or your guru. Again.
And I think you just touched on a very important topic as well, with applying the advice you actually get from the reading. Whether that be advice, suggestions, any important or key piece of information that you get about trying to improve on a situation or to meet your goal, I feel like it's very important to try it at least. Of course, not every single piece of information is going to work. And I know that a lot of people that I've worked with have said, like, I've gone to 5 different readers. Now I'm coming to you, what can you tell me about that situation? And of course, every single person is going to give you a different piece of information, right? But if you, in your mind and heart, know that that piece of information or advice resonates with you, try and apply that. Like, give it a time frame, a week, 2 weeks, a month. Try and apply the advice. If it doesn't work, try something different. If it works, great. You've just achieved something, right? I feel like that's also very important to mention. Not just how to get into a reading, but what to do after a reading. Yes. Apply the things that you have gotten in the reading, that you have heard, that the information that was shared in the reading. Try and apply it, at least for a specific or the self-dedicated amount of time that you have set for yourself, and see how it works out. Because that, as you said yourself, like, some people will just get the information and will just fly over their heads. A little while later, can you read from me again? Can you tell me something new? Well, nothing has changed really, right? If nothing was done in the meantime. And this is, for people who are listening, we are talking about specific situations, for example, where there may be a relationship and it's stuck for an extended period of time. Or a specific work that you want, but you aren't making any progress, you aren't getting the right opportunities. The reading most often will give you certain key points to follow up on, certain directions, certain inquiries you can make in order to meet your goal. So after reading, it may be a good idea to explore that.
Exactly. And again, what we do, we're advisors, right?
Exactly.
There's a difference between a fortune teller. If you want a straight fortune teller, you could go to a straight fortune teller. But if you want an advisor, that's what we do. Spirit, you see the signs: psychic advisor, spiritual advisor, right? Advisors, what do? We give advice based on what we receive. And very often, like you said, they want a solution, right? Like you said, there's a goal, there's something they want to do. They want to make the situation better, whatever it is. If it's a relationship, they want to know how things can improve. Well, that's what the cards tell you. They tell you what is required of you to make the situation better. Why? Because you only have control over your own actions, not the other person.
Exactly.
I'm reading for you, and I'm telling you based on the cards and based on my intuitive information, what you can do to better the situation.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as the other person involved, I can tell you their thoughts, their feelings, and where they stand in the situation at this time, at this given time. But as far as the next step and what can be done to improve the situation, that's on you, boo. So when I give this information, it's for you. It's not for this other person.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people, to interrupt you, expect that doing a reading onto like a love partner of yours will make them come to you or change the situation in some way, sort of like doing magic, almost like the
Magic.
reading is actually doing magic. And sometimes that surprises me because at the end of the day, like, yeah, you're not informed at the end of the day. Because considering, as you just said, you can read into what the person is thinking, what they are feeling, what their intentions are. You can even read into the next possible step, like what's most likely to happen with this person, what are they most likely to do with you or with the situation in, I don't know, a specific amount of time or just in general. But that doesn't change what they are going to do or what they can potentially or will potentially do. It's just a possibility. And that's their choice. So to change that, you have to apply yourself to that situation or to that person.
That's exactly right. And that was many times also where I was faced with hostility because the person that I was reading for did not want to take responsibility. They wanted to blame the other person, and because of what they're doing, they're the reason why the situation is as bad as it is, and so on and so forth. Whereas any relationship, it takes two, not one, but
Exactly my thought.
Right? So with that being said, that there's something in the reason why this isn't in the best kind of scenario right now, it's not in the best space, is because you collectively made it that way.
Yeah.
And that's and the cards on occasion, and actually most of the time, to be honest, the cards will show how the person you're reading where they're falling short, right? So a lot of times in love readings, it would be the rift or the disconnect would be their intentions are totally different.
Yeah.
Right? That would be a very popular scenario. Okay? What you're looking for, what you're intending is not what this other person is intending. Therefore, that is why there's a disconnect. That will come up, and then all of a sudden they would get pretty much butthurt that I went there because they want to believe wholeheartedly that they are on the same page. Well, I'm telling you, the cards are telling me that you guys are not on the same page.
Yeah.
And so very often the other person may portray that, but they're really not also. It could be, there's variables. Sometimes I would get, well, if this person is pretty much telling you what you want to hear, he's saying he's on the same page, or she's saying she's on the same page, but she's really not, because look, there's two other kings here. She's talking to other people, and there's a seven of cups going on. So this person is clearly
she got her options.
All right, thank you. This person is clearly weighing their options. So I'm just telling you what I'm receiving here. Okay? You got Hierophant justice. You want something long term, committed.
Yeah.
Even contractual. You probably want marriage from what I'm seeing here. And this person is two kings, a knight, and a 7 of cups. This person is just kind of playing the field right now. So this essentially is the disconnect. What you're looking for is not what this person is looking for, right? And I'm just giving you guys an example of how the cards may show up to kind of show the contrast. And that's what I do too. I do a 6-card spread sometimes. 3 cards is the person I'm reading and the person that they want to know about. Okay, so usually, and this is as far as what their intentions are, where they stand in the connection. And like I said, very often when the situation wasn't its best, it was usually that at the root of it, what they're looking for is not what the other person is looking for.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
and then like I said, I was faced with hostility many times because of that, because they were told what they did not want to hear. They wanted to believe, like I said, that this person and them are on the same page. They're not. They're not. That would be one situation. Another situation would be, again, the mind reading situation, where they expect this person to know what their needs are, and people are not mind readers. You need to communicate these things. And again,
Exactly.
I'm not a psychotherapist. I can't help you work through your communication skills, homie. That's not my job. I'm
Yeah.
just telling you, okay? I'm just telling you there's a lack of communication here. Either you're not making your needs known, or the other person involved is not making their needs known. Or it could be both of you guys not making your needs known, and that's the disconnect. Y'all need to have a heart-to-heart, talk about this, let them know what your needs are, and vice versa. And that's another thing too. Very often, because their needs don't match your own needs, people don't want to oblige, okay? Because it may be something out of their comfort zone. Okay, so now it's a question, like you said, it's a moral question of, they're telling me what they need, but can I meet them halfway with that? Can I provide that need? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So again, these are things we cannot solve for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
And again, I feel like a lot of people forget that a part of reading that can come through is information about yourself. If you're asking questions, a lot of the time the cards are going to straight up sometimes miss the question or add on to that by showing specific things or specific pieces of information that are of value to you, things that you can change, things that you can improve on, self-empowerment, self-love, self-appreciation, self-value, and stuff like that. A lot of the time, I know that in my reading specifically, as I focus more on that these days, that comes through quite a bit. And I can honestly tell you, some of the best readings I have ever had are with the people who are willing to question themselves, who are willing to ask questions about themselves, about their self-empowerment, their self-improvement, about growth and expanding who they are as a person, becoming the best possible version of themselves. Just recently, about a week ago, I think, I had a call from a client that I talked to heavily last year, beginning of last year, I think it was actually. And we've kind of periodically since that point uh, talked, and it's now been a couple of months since we spoke to each other. And the transformation, the growth, the actual joy in life this person now has and lives every single day is amazing. And when you actually read into that from the point where this person was a year ago to this point, from applying themselves to the things that needed to be improved, to apply certain pieces of information that came through in the reading, and to see that transformation, literally going from grim to probably the most happiest person that I've ever read in my entire life, is amazing to see for me as a reader. So I can only imagine how it is for this person who's actually gone through that transformation and is living in their own power right now and living the best possible life because they have chosen to use the reading as a guide point, not as something that they need to stick by as a Bible, quite literally, but using it as a guide point and using it to make their life better instead of trying to um, get a sugarcoating type reading and just hear what I needed to hear. It was about making their life the best possible. And I also understand the point of that being difficult for some people. If you're stuck in a situation and you just want progress, I know that it's difficult for the ego and for the mind to accept that something isn't going the way that it was envisioned. And that's a real problem. That's a real issue. I understand why some people get hung up on it so much. But at the end of the day, your own well-being, your own happiness and joy has to come first. That has to be the priority in your life. Of course, you're going to have priorities, people, family, children, husband, wife, whatever, work, career. But you yourself and your own well-being has to come first. Because if you're not in your best version, then how can you expect other people to meet you there?
Absolutely. From the words of RuPaul, if you don't love yourself, how the hell are you gonna love somebody else? Right?
Exactly.
He says in Drag Race, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so well said. I couldn't
Yeah.
have said it any better. And those are the type of readings, and I had one recently myself with a client. I read for her last year, and we kind of lost touch. She would periodically cross my mind every now and then, and I would wonder, because her situation was pretty heavy.
Yeah.
It was very heavy, and like I said, she would cross my mind, and I'm like, I hope she's all right, because she disappeared from social media and stuff like that. So she reached out to me about a month or so ago, and I was so happy to hear from her. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been thinking about you. It's so weird. Like, you were on my mind for a while. And she was like, yeah, I've been trying to find you, and I did, and I'm so glad. And she was like, I just want to thank you, because your reading kind of gave me the encouragement to leave the situation I was in and move forward. And everything you said was so on point, and it was exactly what I needed to hear. And yeah, so she's doing really well now, and she's happy and made so many wonderful changes. And I think that that's the part of this for us that is so rewarding, knowing that we've made a difference in that way. And that's why we do what we do.
Yeah. I think for a lot of people, they would expect the gratification to come from the point of you were accurate, you were spot on. For me, yeah, in the beginning, that was something that I really loved to hear because I knew that I was doing a good job. At this point, being a couple of years in, the point of seeing a person making progress, living their best possible life, and me being a part of that in any small capacity, that's where I truly take pride and joy now these days. Because
Same.
that's what you want. You want, if you were the person on the other end, you would want to be the best possible version of yourself. You would want to get the best possible advice for yourself. And I think that's useful as well for any any reader who may be listening, any new reader that may be getting into this. Go out there, get a couple of readings, see what type of style people have, and use that. Use what you think would help you and apply that to the people that you work with. Because at the end of the day, you can work from what other people do, but what you have to offer authentically will resonate the most with people. And it gives you, at the end of the day, a specific niche, a specific uniqueness among everybody else. Because these days, a lot of people are reading cards. Like people I wouldn't expect ever in my life, famous people, and I'm like, damn, you read cards? Even if
Yeah.
it's just for fun. So reading from what you know, yeah, what works for you, working from that place and offering that to people, I think is also very important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I guess to wrap up this episode, ladies and gents, to put it simply as to how a reading works and how to get the most out of the reading is to understand that the cards tell you not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear.
Word.
And I think that's, I'm sure you agree, G. I see you nodding
Yeah.
over there. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing else to say. I feel like key points to kind of wrap it up on my end as well. Be open, going into a reading. Allow the information to come to you. Don't push anything in a reading. And at the end of the day, apply what you have heard. And do your research. Point five, do your research. Do your research. So yeah, with that, I think we are signing off. It has been a true pleasure to have you on today as well and to do this. And I hope everybody listening had a good time. Hit us up on social media. We have links in the description and everything. So find us if you want a reading, hit us up as well. Let us know how you like the podcast, comment, reach out basically. We also have an email. All the links are down below. So just reach out.
Any questions you guys have about the subject matter today or from the previous episode, please ask away. Like we welcome the questions and would love to hear from you guys. So again, it's tarotrebelpodcast@gmail. So
yes,
we look forward to hearing from you guys. And until next time, peace.
hope you have a great rest of your week. Bye bye.